we're moving to agenda item, Mr. Moe and Mr. Bailey. I would ask councillors and others to ask for recognition by the chair before just ad-libbing comments and questions in the future, so that we can have some sense of decorum here. There have been some pretty uppity people around the table here today. Anyway, I'm sorry. We're going to item 12.
Thank you, Chair. So look, I'd just like to introduce Jolene Townsend, who's recently joined my group and is a program leader for us to help coordinate the activities across the Freshwater Improvement Fund and Hotspot related programs. I've asked Jolene to bring you a very brief verbal update on the projects. Just a couple of points I'd make just in terms of where we're at and how it is working, is recognising that the hotspots kind of rolled out quite rapidly, and we responded rapidly to a Freshwater Improvement Fund process, and the kind of detail around what we were proposing to do was quite fluid, and in some cases you're going to hear about today are still quite fluid, given things that are beyond our control in many circumstances. So the update is I guess trying to flag to you the detail of what work we're proposing to do, and James will, for example, expand on some changes that are coming in the Whakakī project as a result of conversations yesterday. But the key is that by necessity, really, the spending through these projects is going to be quite lumpy. So there was in the annual plan and the collateral that you put out publicly, there was this kind of notion of it being uniformly spread. Well, in some cases that may not be the case year by year because the projects vary in terms of what's on the go. But what we're seeing is that in the longer term the projects smooth out. So for the life of them they all get an equal distribution, but year by year there may be more activity in one area than another. And the only caveat to that is, particularly for Tūtera and Whakakī, is that the funding is locked in because it's locked in association with the Freshwater Improvement Fund project. So that's, if you like, not negotiable, but the others are a little bit more fluid. And what we'll do is we'll keep bringing back to this committee regular updates on the program so that you can see where the work is and how it's progressing, so that you're fully briefed on that. And just to note also that in this presentation we haven't specifically talked about the biodiversity fund, the biodiversity funding, which you'd heard about earlier in Desiree's paper, nor have we talked about the pathways activity. That's a separate body of work to the one that Jolene's working on. So look, I'll hand over to Jolene, and James will cameo for one part of it as well. Thanks. Just use the microphone if you pull it up.
Which item is this, Mr. Chair?
It's item 12. It's a
12.
verbal update. So there is no paper, Councillor, it's just a verbal update.
Right, so I've been working with the project leads to discuss a program to deliver physical outcomes in the identified hotspots. And as Mr. Maxwell's just said, the distribution of funding will be lumpy, but will even out over the years. And so our main focus is delivering on physical outcomes that the community can see. So these are our 6 hotspots, and I'll just walk you through briefly discussing each of the deliverables. So Mrs. Mataray Smith has already just been through this for her presentation, so I'll just skip that if everyone's happy with that. So Karamu Stream, so the deliverables we're looking at creating a wetland, and it's fenced at the Mangatūturi stream. Working with the landowners to create a strategy on a page, and fencing and planting in the Pakipaki and Bridgepa area.
So just to expand on the Brookvale stream, so that's the area above Brookvale Road on the Mangateritiri stream that we had some challenges with. The Councillor Graham's got a picture of it, where we had some temporary fencing put in recently to keep stock out. It's colloquially known as the pond that was implicated in the Havelock North water contamination incident. So we're looking at working with Hastings District Council and the nearby landowners and permanently fencing off that area.
Where does that lie in relation to, sorry, Mr. Chair, where does that lie in relation to Ruahapia Marae, the wetland you're talking about here?
Yeah, so it's I probably wouldn't necessarily describe it as a wetland. It's an ephemeral part of the Mangateritiri stream. It's at the top side of Brookvale Road, just along from Tomato Mushrooms, very close to Brookvale Ball 1, running through, at the moment, farmland.
Oh, Mr. Chair, would you like me to just report on the update on this?
Okay.
So, I have spoken to the landowners, and they're really keen to be involved, and they're really keen to put the land in, and not really keen to pay for the fencing, but they want to make the land available for this project, so they're in. There's a few other little bits and pieces, but nothing difficult.
And what is strategy on a page?
So strategy on a page is in the balance of the Mangateritiri stream downstream. It's all open to stock access at the moment. What we're looking to do is the combination of Steve Cave and the Open Spaces team and land management staff developing a concept for retirement of that, basically that whole stream down to the Karamu, and then working with landowners to get them on board and signed up to securing land and fencing it off, basically.
So tomorrow we will be meeting with the science staff and tank team to discuss the strategy overall as well. Tuki. So to raise awareness of the water quality issues and also the riparian planting is to create a focus site that community can see, and also establish a wetland focal site. So this will be working with the local marae and the school. So looking at issues that are on the ground and working through those.
Mr. Chair, is that supposed to be Takapau or Takapū?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Take a pal. Sorry, it's a typo.
Let's go, please.
So for the marine environment, the deliverables are we want to produce a hydrodynamic model for the Hawke Bay. So we will identify the transport pathways and fate of the land-based contaminants, contributors of nutrients and sediments.
So a hydrodynamic model, if you like, is in essence it's the marine version of a groundwater model. So we want to understand if we have discharges of nutrient coming into the bay or sediment from rivers, where does that cycle? And sorry, I forget who it was, but somebody mentioned Whakaki Hard. It might have been Barry, Whakaki Hard this morning in relation to outfalls. The hydrodynamic model will help us understand if we have high loads of material into the bay, where is it going to end up, and what are the likely implications of that. It's a bit of work that we're looking to collaborate with the port on. So the port are building their own model for their port expansion activities. So again, something we'll look to leverage off others as well.
And the second deliverable will be, it's actually a proposed collaborative study. It's a project for fish and habitat assessment of the Wairua Hard, and it will be a multi-year project, if successful, which will require some funding in the future.
And again, that is collaborative, as it says. So we're looking for leverage opportunities again.
Wirral Hard, can you just, geographically, can you describe this?
Anna's not here.
Yeah.
It's basically the area, I haven't got Liz might be able to point to it, there goes a map. So it's the area north of Ridgemount, you can find Ridgemount, extending out into Hawke Bay, going up to the Wairau River mouth. So, yes. So it's an area that traditionally has been recognised as having huge habitat value for spawning fish, particularly snapper. There are tales of the Mohaka River, for example, running red with snapper in days gone by, with the view that the snapper were congregating on the Wairau Hard to spawn. So obviously we don't see that nowadays, and it's highly likely that the Wairau Hard is probably now the Wairau Soft, because it's covered in sediment. And so what are the implications of that for marine species? And how has it got there? And if we stop sediment loads coming out of our catchments, how quickly will that change?
So the final two are hotspots, which fall under our freshwater improvement funding projects. So we've got Whakakī and Tūtera, but I'll let James speak to Whakakī.
Look, I think Councillor Wilson was going to update on minor items, possibly the discussions that were had yesterday, and possibly we might just leave the lake opening discussion till perhaps later in the meeting. Right, okay, well look, as hopefully everyone on the committee is aware, there are long-standing issues with respect to lake level at Lake Whakakī, and there have been numerous discussions over time about the restoration of the lake and the wider catchment and its relationship with lake level. The events of the last week where there has been a relatively intensive flooding around the lake margin of the local community, and a decision last Saturday by the Whakakī Lake Trust not to open the lake to the sea and lower its level, heightened tensions even further around the management of lake level. We, Chairman Councillor Wilson and I and Gary Clode met with the trustees last night, and what we have recognised is that while so much tension exists within the community around the lake level, and people are dealing with the very near-term issues of flooding, overflowing septic tanks, etc., managing stock, that there is a difficulty with progressing this project because we need a unified community around the restoration of the lake. In practical terms, we also have a challenge around establishing the wetland itself while the lake margin fluctuates so greatly. In practical terms, that means where do you put fences, where do you plant native plants, and while at the moment the lake margin is moving hundreds of metres in very wet conditions. So in discussion with the Whakakī Lake Trust last night, there is recognition both by the Trust and by the Council that in order to progress this important restoration work, we need to have confidence that the upper limit of the lake margin is going to be consistently managed, so we know where the edge of the lake exists. That will require an engineering solution, and so we've undertaken to progress that with some urgency, and it may be that we need to seek approval from the Ministry for the Environment to modify some aspects of this project so that our funding, their funding, can be brought to bear on the engineering solution, which in all likelihood looks like a sill or a weir at the opening of the Rahui, where the Rahui Channel meets the main lake, to ensure that when the lake level is being reduced, it is stopped from going too low and presenting an environmental risk, and that would enable the lake to be opened more frequently and with more confidence, and take away the current concern that lowering it at this present point in time in spring presents a risk of the lake drying out in summer. So it's a bit of a modification of what we had initially anticipated, but I think it's an important solution to bring resolution to the ongoing issues around lake level and enable this good project to proceed.
Oh, I don't really have anything to add to that, and all I was going to talk about was in my 8 years as a councillor, and obviously well before that, the challenges of economy coming head to head with environment, which is in fact what happens when the lake floods and encroaches onto farmland, and the values around that has always been pretty hard to get to a place where everyone might be happy. But I think on the back of some good work that was done in the last, I think 25 years ago, that Reporters is something, Joe, Mr. CE, there is some quite positive marks or heights that could be utilised to both protect ecology, environment, and provide some security of tenure, if you like, of some of the land that goes under the water. And then with the Manuka plantation as one example of finding a way to create that bit of a buffer, but we need to get the level set. It was an incredibly positive meeting, and I really want to thank the team that came up from here. Having the CE and chairman arrive in incredibly short notice, get a meeting going, and then come out of that with a solution was hugely powerful in that community. And just thank these guys for the effort they put in to come up at short notice and do that, change their diaries, etc. But I think for the first time in my 8 years, this is going to go ahead now. And on the back of the funding, we can do something quite special out there. So I'm pretty excited. I just had a question about the rail bike extension. Is that an existing operation that they're trying to start, or are we talking about something different?
So that's the
Does anyone know?
That's the this an ecotourism venture there that's up and running. I think it's the Gisborne Whakakī, the Gisborne Wairā end
Right.
rather than our end.
So what will their involvement be in regard to our interest?
Well, it's really just kind of maximising the experience and providing access where possible to maximise the experience for that.
Right. Okay. Well done. Thank you.
And finally, to Tara. So this is the overall project deliverables over 4 years, a total cost of 3.5 million. So the money for the hotspot has been contributed into this. These are all the deliverables. So looking at the aligning the stakeholders and identifying priority areas for action will be the aim of the integrated catchment management plan. With the farm environmental management plan, so we want to identify the risks and outline any mitigations. And through the land services advisor provision, we will be working with the farmers with their farm environmental plans. So that's what that's for. So currently in Lake Tutera, there's an outlet in the lake which is about 100 metres away from the inlet. So that's not working so well. So what we need to do is have that on the opposite end of the lake to have that continuous flow. So that's what the low flow connection of the Pipakuri stream is. And the installation of an aerator. So we are installing an aerator next week into Lake Wakapira. So that is our test case, and if it goes well over the summer, then we will look at doing that next year into Tara.
Sorry, the aerator is going into where?
Lake Wakapira
To the little
So-
lake, yeah.
On trial basis.
next week.
So is that a petrol-driven machine? How does that work?
Electric,
Electric?
Yeah.
Run a power lead over to the woolshed at the other side?
effectively, yeah.
Right.
Unison have responded quickly in bringing power into a shed for the aerator, and then the works group have also actually given them credit, have responded very, very well, and worked quickly with a local expert an expert from Northland to pull together a design and get it constructed and into the lake in short order. We had to work at pace with this because we needed the aeration in and running to break or prevent stratification occurring prior to summer, because if stratification occurs and then you start the aeration and break it, there's a risk that you send deoxygenated water back down into the upper layers of the lake and kill everything that's in it. So we needed to obviously get ahead of stratification occurring. So the team's been working at pace, including the design and the construction and install. A few little headaches with consenting issues, but we're working our way through that. But it's been a really, really good team effort to get that little bit of kit up and running. And just to be clear, the low flow connection to the Papakiri stream is the Papakiri stream is the part of the proposal to allow water into the lake during low flows. So we're trying to avoid the high flows coming into the lake, which are typically laden with nutrients, runoff from the land, but allow low flow water into the lake, which will then be complemented by the longitudinal flow and fish passage, the outlet at the southern end of the lake, to get turnover of water through the lake and shorten the residence time. So at the moment, water's sitting in the lake and is sitting there for quite some period of time, stagnating and contributing to the water quality problems. So the faster we can move, or the more water we can get moving through the lake and the less time it spends sitting in the lake, the better it is for water quality. So that's part of that combined, those two work in combination.
Chair, one other point to make in regard to what's happening up there, and it's all part of this, but the work that's happening at the moment, which I understand the works group's carrying out, which is removing a lot of the old willows and that around the road, is pretty stunning. I just wanted to pass on a congratulation to our involvement in that. I know there's other interests there as well, but that is going to be pretty jolly stunning when that's finished and the native plantings take hold. So.
And just to note, and it's a good reminder actually that Tūtera, much as Ahuriri is a partnership with Mana Ahuriri, Tūtera is a partnership with Mangahuru Tangitu. So the work you're describing is part of the Tūtera Mai Ngā Iwi Te Mano Te Wai funded program that they have led and they are running. So there's two really good projects working in parallel here, but that the Tūtera project, our fifth Hotspot project, is a partnership with MTT, and so we've established some project governance. So Shane Walker and I are the project governors, working with the project teams delivering all of these operational bits. So it's working really well.
Okay.
Just to add to that end, we had great cooperation from the works group. They were fantastic. Graham knocked all that out, and also Transit were very helpful with the road, managing the road sign, the stop go people as well. So there's a lot of support out there for what we're trying to, or what the partners are trying to achieve at the lake. So the community's right in behind it, and the fact that Unison's come on and busted gut to get the power in there, because I know that sounded like it could have been an issue as well. Just tremendous. Thank you.
And just to note on that is that they've offered the connection for free, so that saved us $2,000. Yeah, very good. It's been a great community effort. And lastly, there was the monitoring programs, just to see what's going in and out of the lake in regards to nutrients and sediments. So the project leads are very excited to be part of these hotspot improvements, and I look forward to being able to provide you with some actual updates on progress in the near future.
Any other comments, questions? So we
Move the
move to
report be
receive the
received.
report. Thank you, Councillor Dick. Seconded by Councillor Graham. All those in favour? Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Cool.
Thanks, Charlie.
So we're going to adjourn the meeting now. I need a motion to adjourn the meeting. I think we have guests from Hastings Council who we are meeting with privately. And the meeting is adjourned, but stay in your seats, please.
Using the supreme powers.
I saw a appropriate face out there.
Signage, so just make sure that.
Talk about the water.
These ones are right. These ones okay.
So this has nothing to do with the meeting.